Hello, everyone. Welcome to Trail Talk. I think I'm on. Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, so I missed a week and I'm all rusty now. Welcome to Trail Talk. I'm Edie and I'm here at the Chisholm Trail Heritage Center in Duncan, Oklahoma. We are in our classroom studio. I'm super glad to be back. Shout out to my friend and coworker Mary for doing such a great job on the animal lesson last week. But today we are going to talk about Oklahoma Inventions and Inventors and Inventions, Volume 2. So first of all, we're just going to kick it off and dive right in and talk about Sonic. I know you guys all recognize this Sonic logo. You're like me, you have grown up going to Sonic drive-ins, seeing Sonic drive-ins. I'm thinking about the little plastic monkeys they used to put on the edge of the styrofoam cups and all of those super fun things about Sonic. But you may not be aware that Sonic is an Oklahoma-based started company. And so let me tell you about it because it's quite impressive, actually. Sonic is currently the nation's 11th largest chain of drive-in fast food restaurants. So, you know, it has to be a drive-in kind of thing for it to rank in that. But they're famous for toaster sandwiches and the extra long cheese conies. My stomach might start growling thinking about some of this. But the corporation actually evolved from something called the Top Hat Drive-In that began in Shawnee, Oklahoma, and was founded in 1953 by a man named Troy Smith. So he had tried a few restaurant ventures, and finally he opened the Top Hat, which was a root beer stand that had been abandoned. And he made hamburgers and hot dogs cooked to order, which is one of the great things about Sonic. Your food is always fresh. In 1954, he saw a similar type place that had homemade intercoms where cars could drive up and have the intercom that they could speak into instead of having to get out and walk up to a window to order. And so he contacted an innovator who made an intercom for the Top Hat, and then he built the canopy, the Sonic canopy that you could park your car under. And he had car hops where roller skates to help. It wasn't for a gimmick, it was for efficiency. He knew that car hops could deliver the food faster if they were skating on, if they had roller skates. And every customer received a mint. You know, there are always mints in the bottom of the sack. Well, maybe you didn't know why. I had no idea. It's because it was a tradition that he wanted to remind every customer that they were worth a mint. And that was the prototype for the future Sonic. So in 1956, a man named Charlie Pappy from Woodward opened a second Top Hat in Woodward. And in 1958, there were also Top Hats in Enid and Stillwater. So Shawnee, Woodward, Enid, and Stillwater. And then there was a problem they found out with the name. There was already a Top Hat restaurant. So the copyright of the name kind of became an issue. So Top Hat's slogan was service with the speed of sound. I mean, we've all heard that referring to Sonic, right? And so that is how they came up with the name Sonic. It was already their motto. Then it pointed them directly to their new name. And in 1955, the Stillwater Top Hat became the first Sonic drive-in. The first franchise agreements offered a royalty of 1 penny per sack. And that meant sack of food that was sold to customers. And so by 1973, there were 124 Sonics in Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, and Kansas. And then that same year, 1973, they built the main headquarters. By this time, Sonic had 10 principal franchise owners. So it was kind of like probably investors in the franchise. And so they restructured into Sonic Systems of America, later Sonic Industries, and built their headquarters in Oklahoma City. And we all know the main Sonic headquarters are right down there in Bricktown in Oklahoma City. So the 2000th Sonic Drive-In opened in Oklahoma City in 1999, and the company reached $2 billion in sales in 2001. That was 20 years ago. And they had $2 billion in sales. They were named, the Car Hop was named one of Teen People magazine's top 10 jobs that rock in 2001. And in 2003, Forbes named Sonic one of the 200 best small companies in America. I mean, since the 2000s, their company, the growth and just the productivity and their name getting out there it's just escalated. They became known as America's Drive-In. And in 2018, Inspire Brands acquired Sonic. Now in 2021, this year, there are 3,493 Sonic restaurants in 46 US states. Wow. I mean, they have gone everywhere. So Sonic became, well, I'm just going to say Sonic commercials, right? Their commercials are so very unique. Their first television advertisement was in 1977, and they've had kind of themes, like there would be, you know, certain characters, kind of famous people even, who would star in these Sonic restaurants. And my favorites have been the two guys who, let's see, TJ Jagodowski and Peter Gross. They were in so many Sonic commercials. We loved the Sonic commercials. We used to even like say the lines from Sonic commercials, and my family did. And now they have the Everyday People commercials, which are really great, very creative. But Sonic also sponsored NASCAR, and they were an associate sponsor of Dale Earnhardt Sr. And then after he was killed in the Daytona 500, they moved their sponsorship to Kevin Harvick, who became his replacement driver. And then in 2015, they kind of got out of NASCAR for a little bit. And then in 2015, they got back in. That's a whole nother, advertising campaign. But so 1958, service with the speed of sound, the old original motto. I'm just kind of hitting the ones that I kind of resonated with me. America's Drive-In. It's Sonic Good. I definitely remember that one. Even Sweeter After Dark, when they had in the summertime, they would sell the shakes at a discounted price after a certain time in the evening. This Is How You Sonic. And then the most recent, they say, This Is How We Sonic. So, think about Sonic tonight. Go get you a cherry limeade or an extra long cheese cone, a foot long cheese coney, and support a great Oklahoma invention and now a very famous franchise. All right, let's go on and talk about Ditch Witch. Now, Ditch Witch, it's a great story how Ditch Witch came to be and what a great company they are today. So in 1902, Karl Malzahn, a German immigrant who wanted to get out of the harsh winters of Minnesota, moved his family to Perry, Oklahoma. Shout out to my friends from Perry I went to college with. And he opened a blacksmith shop with his two sons, Charlie and Gus. So the business prospered. When the oil boom came, they adjusted their business to meet needs of the oil field and became Charlie's Machine Shop. Charlie's son, Ed, learned the process of adapting their businesses to meeting demands. And so in the late 40s, after he had received his mechanical engineering degree, he came up with a process and this machine, the ditch witch. So at the time, the only way to put utility services in the ground was basically with a shovel. I mean, it was labor intensive, to say the least, because you had to dig these narrow trenches a very long way sometimes, and through people's yards, and just anyway, it was a slow, tedious process. So he had an idea to create a compact trencher, and he and his father spent several months in the family's machine shop until they came up with the prototype they called the DWP, or Ditch Witch Power. He was only 28 years old. Ed Malzahn was 28 when the first production trencher rolled off the assembly line. It was the first mechanized compact service line trencher developed for laying underground water lines between the street main and the house, which is, I mean, we wouldn't think of doing it any other way now. So the Ditch Witch Power paved the way for the creation of the compact trencher industry. And today they use it for any underground utilities, telecommunication lines, fiber optic cables. I mean, a ditch witch is there, and you can rent a ditch witch to use at your own house. My husband had to do that one time when we had, I can't even remember, some kind of line in our backyard that we needed to repair. We rented a ditch witch to get to it. So now the company is known as the Charles Machine Works, but it still remains the leader in the industry that it created, and it's still based in Perry, Oklahoma. So the Ditch Witch Trencher became a permanent part of the Oklahoma History Center in Oklahoma City in 2005. And Ed Malzahn, the inventor, was inducted into the Oklahoma Inventors Hall of Fame in 2004. Now, in 2019, the Toro paid $700 million and purchased the Charles Machine Works Incorporated, and that included Ditch Witch and other brands. And that merger was completed on April the 1st of that year. But from what I understand, Ditch Witch still is in Perry, Oklahoma. And I've driven to go to Chicago and through Missouri, I've seen Ditch Witch dealers even on the sides of the highway. So Ditch Witch is still a name. Toro did not add or take away that. I mean, why would you? I mean, that would add confusion, I would think, because everyone knows what Ditch Witch is whenever you hear that name. So anyway, well done, Malzahn family. Thank you for moving to Oklahoma in 1902 and for just being great, inventors and entrepreneurs, and really putting Oklahoma on the map. All right, this next gadget, this isn't the greatest picture. I got it from the Lawrence website. But this is a picture of the original fish locator, and it was also called the little green box, and it's it was the first transistorized sonar product to display individual fish and show their depths. So if you've ever gone fishing in a boat, there's a gadget a lot of times on these boats, a fishing rig especially, then you can look and you can see where the fish are and how deep they are. I mean, it's incredible. So this fish locator was the first machine that got this idea out on the market. This company was founded by Daryl J. Lawrence, and he was born in Tulsa and lived his early years in Tulsa, and then he moved to Joplin, Missouri later on, and that's where anyway, that's where he went to school and grew up later on. But the fish locator is one of the most prolific sonar devices ever produced, and over 1 million were sold between 1959 and 1984. The company continued to break new ground in marine electronics and is credited with introducing the first sonar unit to include a microprocessor. They patented a low-profile skimmer transducer capable of high performance at boat speeds of up to 70 miles an hour. I mean, that is a quick look down into the water. And they also introduced the world's first handheld GPS for under $500, so making a GPS very affordable. And they patented a sonar system with an interactive display. So, I mean, they didn't stop with their original design. You know, they keep advancing as technology gives them more tools, more ways to make this a fish locator a better fishing enhancement, I guess you could say, for your fishing experience. I mean, you can go old school, but why go old school when you could use one of these? So in 2019, they celebrated their 60th anniversary. And there was some kind of I'm guessing it had something to do with the GPS. So Garmin and Lawrence had some kind of a big patent issue that happened, but that was actually resolved in 2018. So I couldn't find information that said exactly what the issue was or how it was solved. But evidently the two companies came to an agreement, and Lawrence is still out there making fish locators and all of these other devices that people use. And I mean, Garmin's still at it too, right? So, okay. Once you go fishing and use a fish locator, or you could just fish from the bank like I do. But anyway, there we have it, the Lawrence fish locator. Yum, yum, Fields pies, right? Raise your hand if you've had a Fields pie before. I mean, oh my goodness, they are so delicious. And this is another fantastic story of just hard work and ingenuity. So this all started after World War I. So, you know, late teens, early 20s, 1900s, the late teens, early 20s. The World War I was over in 1918. So there were two brothers, Lee and Julian Field, and they bought some land at the corner of Paul and Walnut Streets in Pauls Valley, Oklahoma. Now this, if you've ever gone to Pauls Valley, you know that's where the Fields pies are made. They began with a filling station. That's what they used to call a gas station for you youngsters out there. And then they added some cottages. And in 1925, they opened a small restaurant they called Fields Tavern. And it became a one-stop service center for travelers because US Highway 77 had just opened up. I mean, prime real estate. I don't know if the highway was being built or they knew it was going to come through there, but that was a prime piece of real estate. Location, location, location. That's what this was. So every morning, their wives, Hazel and Zora, made pastries in their homes to sell at the tavern throughout the day. Hazel's specialty was pecan pies, and Zora's was more along cake, with the cake line. So in 1953, pecan pies and something they called red devil cakes, which I think is probably red velvet. It's like devil's food, but it's red. So the demand became so great for those two items that they added a bakery, and they taught women how to make their specialties. And when the tavern would close in the evening, the women would come in and begin baking for the next day. So people in other areas of the state began asking for these pies. And so they bought a delivery truck. And there was a student who was going to East Central State College, and his job was to deliver pies to Ada and Seminole and the surrounding area before he went to class. Then in 1962, there was an old building in downtown Pauls Valley that was converted into a pie plant. They hired 30 people, and they worked in 3 8-hour shifts, shorter shifts on the weekends. And every day they produced nearly 3,000 pies in their ovens. Now, y'all, that's a lot of pies. That is a lot. The demand, as you can see, is probably becoming greater than they are really able to keep up with at this point. 3 shifts of pies. I mean, that's so much work. I bet it smelled good there. I wonder if you could ever eat a pecan pie, though, after you worked in a place like that. I don't know. I worked in a bakery one time, and I was off donuts for a while after that. So, okay, so the brothers retired, and their businesses were divided between, among their children. So Julian's son, Julian Jr., took the restaurant and pie business. And in 1967, they had 5 trucks supplying fresh pies to Oklahomans every day. Well, Julian and his wife realized, we may be stopping ourselves from becoming an even greater company business. And so they decided to take a new approach, and they were going to bake the pies and freeze them and deliver them then in these refrigerated trucks, and they could get to a wider market. So in 1975, it took them, let me see what I say, that was 67. It took them about 8 years to do this. But I mean, in the meantime, they're staying up with their demand. But 8 years is a long time to commit to something that is out there. But that's a lesson for you. You got to keep looking ahead and keep pushing along with what you believe is going to be best for your company. So in 75, they opened the new plant, closed the old ones, and the pies that came from a Field family kitchen began rolling out of giant ovens in a modern factory. It was 17,000 square feet. They continued with their 30 employees, and one reason was because they were employees that had been with them for years, or their children were working, started working, they'd learned from their parents. And so it was kind of a family type atmosphere. But with the new equipment, those same employees could produce 8,000 pies in 1 8-hour shift. So they went from 3,000 pies in 3 8-hour shifts to 8,000 in 1 8-hour shift. Wow. I mean, that would have been 24,000 in a day. That would have been like 800 times they were getting it now on the pie distribution. Okay, so with that ability to make more pies, they brokered a system they went to a distribution and warehouse broker, and they have warehouses in Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Dallas, Lubbock, El Paso, Phoenix, and Clarksville, Arkansas. The pecan pie makes up about 85% of their sales, but they also sell German chocolate and old-fashioned lemon pies, and all of those are frozen, but they're already baked. So you just take it out of the box, and a couple of hours later, sometimes an hour later, if you don't want to wait that long, you can dig in and have some pie. In 84, those 3 types of pies were certified as kosher and dairy. So they've maintained, or maybe even brought their products up to a certain level of certification to be able to continue to sell. The restaurant closed in the late 80s, and then in 1993, Julian Jr. retired, and he gave the company to his 2 children, and they are still in that main facility. Now, there was a time when you could go tour that pie making facility. I don't think you can do that anymore, probably because of some of those certifications that they have to maintain. But they became GFSI certified by the British Retail Consortium platform in 2013 and began operating 2 shifts that gives them the ability to make about 20,000 pies per day with about 40 employees. That is a major business. So go buy you a Fields pie, Homeland, Walmart, wherever you like to buy your groceries. Get a Fields pie. They are all 9 inches and weigh 32 ounces, so they don't skimp on their ingredients. Thawed 1 or 2 hours or overnight in a refrigerator. Now, they also sell native pecans, pie crusts that are already in a pan. You get 2 in a package, or you can get pie dough, 4 plugs of dough per package, or you can get t-shirts or cooler bags, you know, little kind of novelty items like that. But yeah, check out Fields Pies. They have a website. In fact, that's where fieldspies.com is where I got this picture. So literally, after talking about Sonic and these pies, my stomach is growling. Okay, we're going to talk about one more invention. And this man is named Gordon Matthews. He's from Tulsa. Well, I'll tell you his story. So he was an American inventor and businessman and pioneered the commercialization of voicemail. And that's an important distinction to remember, okay? He graduated from the University of Tulsa with a bachelor's in engineering physics, and then he joined the U.S. Marine Corps. And while he was in the Marines, a friend and fellow pilot, so I guess he was a pilot, died in a mid-air collision. And Gordon Matthews believed the reason for that was because the pilot looked away to adjust the frequency for his radio communications and didn't see the oncoming plane, and so he couldn't pull out in time. And so once he was discharged from the military, he went to IBM to help develop voice-activated cockpit controls, which would help lessen similar types of catastrophic errors in the future, which, I mean, I feel like that was probably a tribute to his friend that he lost as well, but think of the lives that have been saved, not having to, I mean, because of that invention. And then he went to work for Texas Instruments in 1966. So he said he had an inspiration for this invention of his inspiration came in 1970. He went to visit a client's office and he noticed that the trash cans were overflowing with little notes about either, you know, so-and-so called, here's their number, these return call sheets. And it was just, you know, call after call after call. And so he said, he came up with the concept for an electronic system to store and receive messages. His first attempt required 64 telephone lines, 114 Intel 8086 microprocessors, and 4 refrigerator-sized 200 megabyte hard drives. The hard part would be finding a company who would buy this untested system, right? But he presented at a conference, and there was a man from the Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing, 3M, Minnesota Mining Manufacturing, named James Jensen, who immediately recognized the potential of this type of telephone message storage system. And so by 1980, he persuaded 3M to purchase and install the very first system, and it cost about $500,000, and it served about 3,000 users. So it was limited in its capacity, but it was the first company that used this concept, and they were able to implement it successfully within their business. So In 1979, Gordon Matthews founded a company he called ECS Communications, the first voicemail exchange system. And he filed a patent for voicemail, which was granted on February the 1st, 1983. He patented something he called the voicemail exchange, and I've got the US patent number, 4,371,752 for those of you who like that kind of information. And it was a significant patent for voicemail because there were a number of patents being filed, all kind of in this short span of years, but there were like little distinctions between them or among them, I guess, because of how they were, the patent was how it was to be used, or maybe it was a difference in design or different things. But there was a prior art for voicemail that had a patent, but his was never adjudicated and it held up until its expiration. He eventually had over 35 patents, many of which related to voicemail. So I don't think we can clearly state that Gordon Matthews invented voicemail. He was one of a lot of people who were kind of coming up with the same idea at the same time. And there were several who received patents, but it was kind of like I said, there were little distinctions that made each patent legitimate, I guess, and made that it made it just different enough. But his big idea was to commercialize it for industries. He eventually developed a 3,000 user voice message system called the VMX64, for those of you who are super nerds about this stuff. VMX, his company, was arguably the first company to offer voicemail for sale commercially for corporate use. And he sold to 3M, Kodak, American Express, Intel, Westinghouse, Corning Glass. I mean, all sorts of different companies purchased his idea. And that really started the ball rolling for the corporate voicemail idea. So the first few years after voicemail was introduced to the world, not many companies could take advantage of because the size of it, the cost of it, it was very much limited to those large companies like the ones I mentioned. But the playing field was leveled with the introduction of the PC-based voice processing boards. And so when companies started making that, that allowed smaller businesses to be able to purchase a voicemail. And I mean, we all know if you have a phone, you've got voicemail on your phone. So people, you know, you can't get much smaller than one person, one user, right? So voicemail has definitely evolved through the years, but Gordon Matthews and Tolson definitely was involved in all of that, the early years, and making voicemail what it is today. So I hope you guys have learned some things today about these great Oklahoma inventors and inventions. Sonic, what was this? Ditch Witch, the fish locator, Fields Pies, and lastly, Gordon Matthews and voicemail. We have a lot to be proud of being from Oklahoma. We are been home to many great inventors, and these are just some of them I've introduced you to. This is volume 2 that we're talking about today. So there's more to come. So many more people really leaving their mark. Reminder, tomorrow's trail talk is going to be Hawk Hill Petting Zoo. They're going to bring several of their little animals up here. So, hey, if you've got a little one, bring them up here and you can let them see the animals up close and personal. Megan is going to bring some that the kids can pet. And I'm so excited about that. I love animals. So this is going to be very fun. Be sure you tune in or stop by and see us live. We'll be here at 3 o'clock at the Chisholm Trail Heritage Center. I can't think of any other announcements I need to make? Oh, the Father's Day. We're still doing the Father's Day drawing, right? Oh, yeah. Okay. I have two things. So first of all, Skip Rowell, we have a beautiful piece of art that is actually a knife. And so if you want to get in good with your dad this year, come on in, say you're here to see the Skip Rowell exhibit. He's our featured artist. You can put your name in for a drawing that will be held right here 2 weeks from today, I believe. Yeah, 2 weeks from today, we'll have that drawing. And that's the Wednesday before Father's Day. So perfect timing, because I know you guys, you haven't bought your dad's Father's Day gift yet. That's always the last minute gift, right? Also, starting Monday, the June the 7th, I believe, we start free family art Mondays. And that's open to anyone of any age. We will be here from, is it 2 to 4? Okay, we'll be here from 2 to 4 on Monday afternoons outside under the portico, rain or shine, wind or not. We are out there, and we're going to have every Monday, we'll have several art projects, and come on out. If you don't have kiddos, that's fine. It's for anyone of any age. And we have fun little passports, and we're going to travel around the world this year with our, I'll do it. We'll travel around the world this year in our art project. So be sure and join us next Monday, the 7th at 2 o'clock. And I think that's all I have for you today. Thanks for joining me again on Trail Talk. I'll see y'all tomorrow. And until then, happy trails. Bye-bye.